Hello world! Today, we are interviewing Tonysha Nelson, the granddaughter of George Clinton. She has been working in the music management and bookings world for over 10 years, and we're really looking forward to hearing her story today. Starting this episode off with a favorite, Cyclops by Amindi. Make sure to check it out on the House of Legacy playlist on Spotify. Alright, let's get into episode 4 of season 2. My name is Time Journey, and this is the House of Legacy. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the House of Legacy podcast. We have another special guest with us today. Please introduce yourself and your legacy.
Hi, my name is Tonysha, and I'm the granddaughter of George Clinton.
So I want to know about you, your childhood, your upbringing. What was it like, as the grandchild, also the child of your parents?
So I grew up, my mom is Barbarella, which is his daughter. And my mom, as a child, she was his road manager. So I spent a lot of time on the road with them. I think my first tour was when I was maybe 4, when they did Lollapalooza.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It's funny because my mom, she's like, "You remember that?" I'm like, "I definitely remember that. I remember the bus breaking down in Texas. It was hot as hell."
Wow.
So, like my mom had me at 21, so she definitely would bring me out on the road, and I would be with the band and things of that nature. Growing up through that, it was. I didn't realize that my childhood was different until you start getting older and you start speaking to everyone else, and you're like, "Oh wow, okay." Right. Studio life and traveling and being at clubs that they let you in at a young age, sitting like, okay, you're going to sit in the dressing room. You're not allowed out in the front, but you're allowed in the dressing room. So, it was that type of childhood. And, but it was also a very safe space, because half of the band members were in the band. They've been in the band for 40 plus years.
Right.
So, so that was a lot of my upbringing. And then navigating through that, I knew that I wanted to be in the industry. So I started off singing, and my mom never really encouraged it. And I think it's because she didn't really want to have me in that space, because the industry can be a letdown.
Yeah.
But I was determined. And so from there, my cousin and I, we started a group, and that was called Candy Apple Red. And then I ended up going on tour with my grandfather. And from there, it just kind of took off as far as me finding my way in the industry. Because George is my mother's father, I've always had a really tight relationship with him and with that side of the family, because the Clintons, we are a very close-knit family.
Okay.
It's a lot of us. So, So as an adult, it went from that to working with my older cousin. She is the road manager. And so since there's 30 of us on the road, now we split responsibility. So she, raised, as far as that industry, she raised me. She taught me what to move. My mom taught her. And so I helped with that. And then from there, I started, it just evolved. As you know, this industry, you kind of start curating events. You start, executive producing albums. You start doing a little bit of everything.
Right. Wow. And that, I'm sure, going on tour at 4 years old, like, your life must have been, like, not hectic, but it maybe busy, or did it seem like that at that age? I know you didn't really know the difference, like, oh, this is just my childhood, but to others, it's like, whoa, you're living like a rock star lifestyle in a sense compared to the normal childhood. Did it hit you in that way? And if it did, when did it hit you?
It didn't hit me until I was in high school. As a kid, I just thought it was normal. I would come back, when the teacher would ask all the students, like, what did you do this summer?
Right.
And I'm from Toronto originally, and my mom's mom lived in Buffalo. So I remember as a kid, when summer would start, I would go to Toronto to see my father, and then I would go to Buffalo, New York, to visit my grandma, hang out there. And then if my mom had any cool festivals or tours or things of that nature, I would be with her. And I I guess I thought it was normal until you get to high school and you start to realize, oh no, people's parents don't, move around as much as your parent. And the freedom, obviously, being I was the only child in my home, so the freedom was a little different. My mom's on tour for a month.
Right.
She worked with other artists as well as her career grew, so she had other clients. So
right.
It is very different. I just didn't realize how different it was until high school, and also until I started dating. Then you start dating and people start telling their stories and you're like, oh, okay, that's different from mine. You know?
In that, did you ever feel used or bullied or anything, or were you more like, because you were George Clinton's, granddaughter, you were popular and everyone loved you and wanted to just be around?
So, as a child, the rule was to never tell people who you were related to. So I wasn't allowed to tell people George was my grandfather. And so for that, I didn't really have, I was never a popular kid. I was really kind of to myself, a really chill kid. I was an artsy kid. I did theater, I did choir. That was my space. So never had any of those issues. I think once I got to high school though, and once different things like Facebook and stuff like that, then it showed more like, okay, you're related to, or I would say it more. I wasn't as fearful, but my mom put the fear of God in me as a child. Like, no one is to know who your grandfather is. That's nobody's business. And she felt that sometimes people will take advantage. Right. So I just didn't say anything until I started realizing, like, okay, wait a second. If this teacher's a fan, like, forget the kids. If this teacher's a fan, can you pass me?
Right. Got you. Right. Wow. So that was kind of something to not like go around and say, or your first introduction when meeting someone.
Correct. And it was funny because I grew up in the DMV area, and I went to school with another set of celebrity kids. They were related to Chuck Brown, and he's a go-go player. And I remember like everyone knew them, and they were extremely popular and things of that nature. So I seen it from that perspective, like, oh, okay, you get a little extra if when people see it. But I just knew like how my household was. It wasn't a thing, and plus my mom was gone a lot, so it would have brought a different light to my life. Right.
What did your dad do?
So my dad's from Toronto, and he's a blue collar worker.
Dope.
Yep. So my mom, they met when they were like 19, 18 years old. Okay. So I'm pretty sure that was interesting because during that time, she had me, and then she gets this huge opportunity to come out with her dad and be trained. She was trained at a label with someone who's still really big in the industry. They trained her up, and that world where they kind of separate. So I've seen that too, like, oh wow, this music industry, and I'm pretty sure in other industries, but this is what I'm familiar with. This music industry can be a huge blessing, but also it can become interesting to sustain a family.
Right.
When you have children, and if you have a husband or a wife or a partner in this life, it's a lot of time away from them. So trying to navigate through those areas, I think can become tricky. Okay. I know my mother and that's my best friend. But I know during that high school phase, and when you're in high school, it's like, oh my God, the world is ending. Right. And you're super dramatic. Yeah, right? So it was just like, I know for my mom, I probably drove her crazy because she was gone a lot. That was her job. That's how she made money. And that can pull on your emotions. And so for myself, I had a son at a young age. Boys are a little different, but although they're a little different, they're even more emotional. in some ways. So that was I would say that's the biggest time, like trying to carve out time and also knowing your identity in your home and your identity when you're out there in the forefront. Because I can't speak for others, but for me, I've created two separate people.
Do you mean like creatively two separate people, or like this is my personal life and this is my business life, or this is who I am and this is being the granddaughter?
All of the above.
Dope.
Like, I know when, as far as my personal life and my business life, I like to keep those kind of separate. I don't really post too many pictures of my son or my family. When it comes to being artistic, definitely two different people. When I walk on stage with my grandfather, or if I'm on a red carpet or something like that, that is a more, I don't want to say ego-driven, but that individual has more spice, and she's sexy, and she's demanding of attention. Because that's what is called for in that time. And then now that I'm on the business side of things, which I love, she's just a badass.
I love that. So what is your business now? 2024 or 2023 to 2024, what's been your personal and business goals?
My business goals right now really is carving out, I literally just had this conversation today, just carving out where I'm going to direct my attention. I think throughout the years, I've been able to gather a lot of skills. And so just trying to pivot and see what that is. But what I've been doing is curating events. I've been booking shows. So I book a lot of tours. So not even shows, I book tours. And there's a venue that my uncle owns out here in the DC area. So I help him with that. And there are other venues around that we do all the booking for. So those have been the places that I've been in. Also, my grandfather's working on the album, and I've been basically executive producing, getting artists to be on it. So it's a lot of when you, like I said, it's like a playground. You know, it's a playground where you're able to just see and figure it out and explore. I just want to now, okay, this is what Tonysha does outside of George Clinton.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So creating that identity. I am the granddaughter, and I carry my legacy with my family like really deeply, because I feel like when I step out, I represent my family, but also wanting to be an individual and claiming my spot in this industry as well.
Right. Yeah. What's a story you could tell us that shaped you today to be this like beautiful, strong, intelligent woman?
I have two big events that I would say that shaped the individual that I am today. One is having my son. I had my son at 17, and my mom was like, it was a crazy situation. In my pregnancy, it was a whole thing, girl.
Okay.
Whole thing. I remember her looking at me and just telling me like, okay, look, you're gonna make something of yourself. But it's gonna be hella hard. It's gonna be hard, but you're gonna do something, because this, you're gonna graduate from high school and we gonna get the job done. And I appreciate that, because that is what pushed me to continue to believe in myself and work hard for the things that I want. And the next big event that really molded me emotionally was the loss of my boyfriend in 2020.
Okay.
We were together for about 8 years, and that changed me because it was COVID, so everything kind of fell apart. But that just really, that is where I took, in my 20s, because that was when I turned 30, literally a month after I turned 30. In my 20s, I had so many fun times and so many pivotal moments. And I remember every time something happened, I'm like, okay, so what's next? Okay, so what's next? But I didn't really bask in the glory or in the moment. right? You have these great moments in life and you're always yearning for the next moment, but did you appreciate where you're at?
Right.
And give thanks for where you are. So that's kind of how I try to lead my life now. Like, I am someone who's always seeking the next thing, but I'm happy where I am and I'm grateful where I am.
Where do you see yourself in 1 year?
Where do I see myself in 1 year? I see myself having my management company up and running.
Love that. How do you plan to continue your legacy?
As far as like with my granddad, every milestone of his, I love to celebrate. So every year is like a 50th anniversary, 40th anniversary of some album. So that's how, when it pertains to him and what he has going on, I always want to push that forward.
Any advice you can give to the next legacy holder listening?
Look, stay out the tabloids. No. I would definitely say continue to work on your craft, whatever that is. Believe in yourself. And although the person who started the legacy is super dope, aim for your own identity.
Nice.
And chase your own dreams, and just use that as a good pillar to move forward.